What if a single moment of compassion uncovered a dark past and led to an unexpected new beginning? When single father William Patterson offered a simple meal to a struggling mother with 3 children, he never imagined the shocking connection they shared or how it would change all of their lives forever. Stay until the end. The truth William uncovers will leave you speechless. Before we start, comment below where you're watching from and enjoy the ride. The sun hung low over Maple Creek's main street, draping long shadows across the storefronts. William Patterson adjusted his well-worn tool belt and gathered the last of his modest supplies from Grayson's general store. His calloused hands, shaped by years of honest labor, moved with quiet precision. This month, money was tighter than ever. Yet, as he approached the counter, a small bag of brightly colored candy caught his eye. "Just this as well," William said, adding it to his sparse purchase. "A reward for Jackson?" asked Martha Grayson, smiling kindly. William nodded. "Perfect attendance this quarter." "You're raising a fine young man, William. Sarah would be proud," she added softly. At the mention of his late wife, a familiar ache stirred within him. 3 years had passed, but her absence still lingered. "I hope so," he replied simply. As William stepped into the crisp October air, his gaze was drawn to a small group near the corner of the building. A slender woman stood protectively around 3 children. Their clothes hung loose, their faces pale and weary. He might have kept walking. He had problems enough of his own, but the youngest child's wide, hungry eyes stopped him cold. He approached cautiously. "Is everything all right, ma'am?" Startled, the woman pulled her children close. "We're fine," she said quickly, but her trembling voice and shaking hands told another story. William's heart tightened. He crouched slightly, softening his tone. "When's the last time you and your little ones had something to eat?" The woman's composure cracked. Pride and desperation warred on her face. "We had yesterday." Her voice broke. "Decision made." William spoke gently but firmly. "My house is just up that road. I've got soup on the stove, bread that needs eating. You're all welcome." Suspicion flickered in her gaze. "Why would you help strangers?" William looked down at the children, their hopeful eyes impossible to ignore. "Because once, someone helped Jackson and me when we had nothing." He extended his hand. "I'm William Patterson." She hesitated, then slowly accepted. "Elizabeth Reynolds. And these are my children, Emma, Alice, and Matthew." William offered a warm smile. "It's a pleasure to meet you all. Now, let's get you that soup before it gets cold." The walk to William's home was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves underfoot. Elizabeth kept her children close, her eyes scanning the surroundings, a woman used to uncertainty. William didn't press her with questions. He simply led the way to his modest house, nestled behind a line of tall oaks, its porch light casting a warm glow across the steps. Inside, the kitchen smelled of simmering broth and fresh bread. The space, though humble, radiated comfort. "Have a seat," William offered, pulling chairs around the old oak table. The children hesitated only a moment before rushing to the bowls of vegetable stew. Emma helped the younger ones, their hunger momentarily overpowering their manners. "Easy now," Elizabeth said gently. "There's plenty." William busied himself slicing more bread, pretending not to notice the emotion threatening to break through Elizabeth's carefully held composure. Her hands trembled slightly as she wrapped them around the warm mug he handed her. "No one's fed us in days," she whispered. "You're safe now," he replied quietly. Across the table, Jackson, William's 10-year-old son, offered a shy smile. "My dad bakes the bread himself. He says Grandma taught him the secret." "What's the secret?" Matthew asked, mouth half full. William winked. "Patterson family mystery. The children laughed, small, sweet giggles that melted the tension like snow under sunlight. For the first time in a long while, they were just kids. After dinner, Jackson offered to show the others his small collection of action figures. The children followed him eagerly, their bellies full and their guard lowered. William poured 2 cups of tea, handing one to Elizabeth. "I can't remember the last time I sat somewhere without feeling watched," she said. "You're not being watched here," William replied. "Only welcomed." She studied him, eyes wary but softening. People don't just open their doors like this anymore, especially not to a woman with 3 children. "Maple Creek's different," he said. "Or maybe it's just me." Elizabeth hesitated, then spoke the words that had been pressing against her chest. "We left 3 nights ago. In the dark. No plan. No destination." She took a shaky breath. "My husband, Richard, isn't the man people think he is. Out there, he's charming, brilliant. But at home—" Her voice faltered. She stared down into her tea. "At home, he's something else entirely." William didn't interrupt. He let the silence settle, gave her space to breathe. "The last time he threatened the kids, I knew we had to go," she continued. "I couldn't let them grow up thinking that kind of fear was normal." "You did the right thing," William said softly. She met his eyes. "Did I? We're running. No money. No safety net. He'll find us. Richard Reynolds always gets what he wants." William's face went still. The name struck like a bell inside his chest. "Richard Reynolds?" he repeated slowly. "As in, Reynolds from Rain-Tech Solutions." Elizabeth's eyes widened. "You know him?" William leaned back, bitterness swirling behind his eyes. "I used to work for him. Years ago. He had me blacklisted after I refused to sign off on safety shortcuts at one of his factories. I lost everything. My business. Nearly lost my home." A heavy silence fell between them, their separate tragedies folding into one. Elizabeth whispered, Oh my God." A loud crash from the living room shattered the heavy silence. Both William and Elizabeth jumped to their feet and rushed in. Matthew stood frozen, eyes wide with terror beside a shattered photo frame on the floor. "I'm sorry," he cried. "I didn't mean to." William knelt slowly, his voice calm. "It's okay. Just glass, buddy. No one's hurt." He carefully picked up the fallen photo, a picture of Sarah, his late wife, her smile eternally frozen in happier days. Matthew flinched when William reached toward him, his small body trembling. William paused, heartbreak twisting in his chest. "No one will hurt you here," he said gently, meeting Elizabeth's pained gaze. As he swept the last shards away, Elizabeth gathered Matthew in her arms, whispering soothing words. Emma and Alice hovered nearby, their wary expressions revealing more than words ever could. Later that evening, after settling the children in Jackson's room, her son happily offering his own bed, Elizabeth found William on the porch, gazing up at the stars. She joined him, her voice soft but weighted. They're afraid of raised voices, of sudden movements, of mistakes. Her voice caught. That's what he did to them. William's hands gripped the porch railing. "And to you, the bruises heal," she whispered, "but the other wounds, those don't." The night pressed close around them. An owl called in the distance, its lonely cry echoing through the trees. "You know he'll come looking," William said finally. Elizabeth nodded. "We can leave tomorrow. I won't bring his rage to your doorstep." "That's not what I meant." William turned to her, determination burning in his gaze. "You need a safe place. Right now, that's here. Stay, at least until you figure out your next steps." "Why would you risk that, knowing who he is?" William thought of the frightened children, of Elizabeth's quiet bravery, and of his own bitter history with Richard Reynolds. "Because some things are worth standing up for," he said simply. "Or maybe I'm just stubborn." A faint smile tugged at Elizabeth's lips, the first he'd seen. "My mother would have called that righteous foolishness." "My father would have said the same," William replied. They sat in silence beneath the stars, unaware that in that moment they had already forged a bond stronger than fear, wealth, or past wounds. Inside, the children slept more soundly than they had in months, their small bodies finally safe, their breathing deep and peaceful within William Patterson's modest home. A crisp dawn bathed William's kitchen in soft light as he prepared breakfast. Familiar movements, measuring flour, heating the griddle, offered a sense of control amid the growing storm within. Elizabeth appeared in the doorway, hair damp from a shower, wearing clothes Martha Grayson had discreetly dropped off. "I haven't slept that well in months," she admitted softly. "Can I help?" William gestured to the coffee pot. "Mugs are in that cabinet." Together, they worked in companionable silence. When the children tumbled in, eyes wide at the breakfast feast, something tightened in William's chest. "Real maple syrup." Jackson grinned. "Dad and I tapped the trees ourselves." Matthew hesitated. "Are we allowed to have some?" William kept his tone light, though fury flared inside him at the question. "As much as you want, buddy." After breakfast, Elizabeth insisted on washing dishes. "I need to contribute," she said firmly. "There's dignity in accepting help when needed," William replied, "and giving back when you can." Later, Elizabeth lingered by a bookshelf, her fingers tracing a photograph of Sarah. "She was beautiful," she murmured. "Yes," William answered softly. "Cancer. 3 years ago." Understanding flickered in Elizabeth's eyes. "That's why you get it. You've rebuilt, too." "One day at a time," William said. Outside, laughter drifted through the window. The children, free to be children again. "I stayed too long," Elizabeth whispered, "convinced myself it was for their future." "You left," William countered. "That's what matters." When her eyes filled with tears, he instinctively reached toward her, then paused. She noticed. "It's been a long time since a man's touch didn't make me flinch." Their eyes met. No words were needed. That evening, William worked on expansion plans for the workshop. Elizabeth peered over his shoulder. "What are you designing?" "Just an idea," he replied. "Figured you might want to learn some basics. Could be useful." She studied him, something soft and new in her gaze. "Why are you really helping us, William?" He considered. "Because it's right, and because everyone deserves a chance to rebuild." The next morning, Sheriff Davis arrived with a warning. "Someone's been asking about your property records. Private investigator. Law firm out of the city." "Reynolds found us," William said grimly. Davis nodded. "I've got friends watching the roads. You'll have warning." William thanked him, mind racing. The peaceful days had lulled them, but danger was closing in. That night, as thunder rolled across the valley, William and Jackson secured the windows. "Dad," Jackson asked, voice serious, "are we going to protect them if that bad man comes?" "We'll do our best," William answered honestly. The storm struck with unexpected ferocity. By midnight, the power failed. The house was plunged into darkness. Elizabeth appeared in the hallway, wrapped in an oversized sweater. "The kids are finally asleep," she said softly, sitting beside William on the couch. They sat in silence, the rain drumming against the windows. "William," she began, hesitant, "if Richard comes." "When he comes," William corrected gently. "When he comes, I want you to know these weeks have been more real than anything I've felt in years." "For me too," he said. Their faces were inches apart when the acrid scent hit them. Sharp wrong. Smoke, William breathed. Accelerant. Flames already licked the side of the workshop. Get the children. William ordered. Use the front door. I'll call for help. Elizabeth sprinted toward the bedrooms as William grabbed a fire extinguisher and raced into the downpour. But the fire moved too fast, fueled by gasoline. An explosion rocked the night. William was thrown to the ground, dazed, burned. Through blurred vision, he saw the flames creeping toward the house, toward the children's room. A scream pierced the night. Alice. William staggered to his feet, every nerve screaming. Nothing mattered now but reaching those children. As he stumbled toward the inferno, a dark figure stood at the edge of the trees, watching with cold satisfaction. Richard Reynolds. Elizabeth would not forget that face, not for the rest of her life. The antiseptic sting of the hospital room greeted William before his eyes fully opened. Pain seared across his back and shoulders. Every breath a battle against the bandages wrapped tightly around him. A soft voice pulled him from the haze. William. Elizabeth sat beside him, exhaustion etched deep into her face. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. A smudge of soot still streaked her temple. The children? William rasped, voice raw. Safe, she whispered. All of them. Jackson's with Emma at the sheriff's house. Alice and Matthew are down the hall. Relief swept through him, more powerful than any drug. Fragments of the night returned, flames climbing walls, carrying Matthew through choking smoke, going back again and again until every child was safe. The house, he managed. Elizabeth's expression answered before her words did. Gone, she whispered, except the old oak tree. William closed his eyes, absorbing the loss. It was Richard, Elizabeth said. Sheriff found traces of accelerant. A professional job. Coward, William muttered. Attacking children. Elizabeth's fingers tightened around his. You saved them. The doctor said you shouldn't have been able to keep going back inside, but you did. He remembered no pain from those moments, only the desperate drive to reach the children. A nurse entered, checking his vitals. You're the town hero, Mr. Patterson. Half of Maple Creek's in the waiting room. After she left, Elizabeth leaned closer, brushing hair from his forehead. The whole town has rallied. People are donating clothes, toys, everything. You should rest too, William said. Elizabeth shook her head. I'm staying. Elizabeth, he began. She silenced him with a gentle touch. Don't offer me an exit, she whispered fiercely. Not now. Not after this. Her voice, once hesitant, now rang with quiet strength. For days later, William was discharged. Sheriff Davis personally drove him to a small rental cabin the town had prepared. Home sweet temporary home, the sheriff announced. The cabin door burst open before they reached it. Dad, Jackson ran into his father's arms, careful of the bandages. Behind him stood Elizabeth and her children, faces lighting up with relief. Inside, the cabin was modest but welcoming, a patchwork of donations from the townsfolk. A quilt hung on the wall with embroidered words. Family isn't always blood. Elizabeth guided William to a chair. The children are with Mrs. Winters. I wanted to talk first. Her tone was serious. Richard is here. In town. William's jaw clenched. Has he approached you? Not yet. He's playing the concerned husband, staying at the inn. Before they could speak further, a sleek black car pulled up outside. Elizabeth tensed. That's his lawyer. They're coming. The knock echoed through the small cabin like a thunderclap. Sheriff Davis opened the door, stepping protectively into the frame. Richard Reynolds stood there, the picture of polished control. Tailored suit, impeccable hair, smirk fixed in place. Thank God you're safe. he said smoothly, eyes finding Elizabeth. "I've been worried sick." Elizabeth's body tensed, but her voice remained steady. "You burned our home," she said coldly. Richard's gaze flickered, only for a second, before hardening as it landed on William. "Patterson," he sneered. "I should have known you'd be involved." William met his gaze without flinching. "Elizabeth and her children are here by choice. Their choice." Richard's smile thinned. "My wife isn't in her right mind, taking my children, living in these conditions." "I am not your possession," Elizabeth said suddenly, voice strong. "Neither are our children." Richard's mask cracked. His lawyer stepped forward, voice oozing with practiced calm. "Mr. Reynolds has dozens of witnesses placing him in the city. These accusations are slanderous." Sheriff Davis crossed his arms. "Funny thing about small towns. We notice strangers, especially ones snooping around before fires start." Richard's voice turned to ice. "I came to make a reasonable offer. Return home with the children, and Mr. Patterson will receive the best medical care money can buy. Refuse, and I'll press kidnapping charges." The air in the room grew heavy. Elizabeth rose from her chair, walked to William's side, and placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Get out," she said simply. "You have no power here." For a beat, Richard stood frozen. Then, with a clipped nod, he turned and left, the door shutting behind him with a final, resounding click. Sheriff Davis exhaled. "He'll be back. Men like that don't take rejection well." William reached up, covering Elizabeth's trembling hand. "We'll be ready," he promised. Elizabeth sank into a chair, courage draining. "He'll use every resource. The courts, his money, but not the truth," William said gently. "Or this town." The following days became a blur of legal motions. Richard filed emergency custody petitions, claiming Elizabeth was mentally unstable, that William was a dangerous influence. But Maple Creek rallied. Teachers testified about the children's improved well-being. Doctors documented Elizabeth's progress. Even gruff Mr. Jenkins appeared in court to praise Emma's character. Slowly, the tide began to turn. One quiet evening, after the children were asleep, William returned to the cabin to find Elizabeth staring at legal papers. "He's offering a settlement," she said softly. "Full custody for me. A generous financial package. A house anywhere, as long as it's far from here." William sat across from her, heart heavy. "Is that what you want?" She looked up, tears shimmering. "I want my children safe. I want this. You, Jackson, the life we were building." William took her hands. "Then we fight. Together." The late September sun cast long shadows across what remained of William's property. Blackened timber, twisted metal, ashes where life once stood. But today the scene buzzed with life. Dozens of neighbors moved with purposeful energy, transforming devastation into hope. Sheriff Davis called it an old-fashioned barn raising. But they weren't building a barn. They were building a home, a future. Elizabeth stood slightly apart, overwhelmed. 3 months had passed since she had rejected Richard's settlement offer. 3 months of legal battles, courtroom skirmishes, small victories that had grown into a tidal wave. Maple Creek had embraced them as their own. "Quite the sight, isn't it?" William said, joining her. His burns had healed remarkably well, though scars remained when he rolled up his sleeves. "I've never seen anything like this," Elizabeth whispered. "These people, they're family now." She watched as Emma helped arrange flowers for the lunch tables, confidence shining through. Nearby, Alice and Matthew laughed with other children. Jackson worked proudly alongside the men, carrying smaller tools, chest puffed with purpose. "They're thriving," she said softly. They are, William replied. So are you. A truck arrived, unloading limestone for the new foundation, funded with the portion of her settlement that Richard couldn't touch. I made some adjustments to the plans, Elizabeth said shyly, unfolding blueprints. William studied them, a smile tugging at his lips. She had expanded the workshop, added a sunlit studio, designed the home to accommodate them permanently. It's perfect, he said. Are you sure? It's your land. William took her hand. Our land, if that's what you want. Elizabeth nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. At the cornerstone ceremony, the community gathered in a wide circle. One by one, the children placed small treasures into a metal box, anchoring their new home with meaning. Jackson added a wooden carving he'd made with his father. Emma contributed a sketch of their family. Alice placed a seashell from the lake. Matthew a treasured stone. Elizabeth hesitated, then removed the diamond ring Richard had once used to claim her. For new beginnings, she whispered, placing it inside. William added a photograph of Sarah beneath her favorite oak, for remembering where we came from. Later, as volunteers continued their work, Elizabeth found William beneath the old oak tree. You deserve this, she said quietly. All of it. So do you. So do they, William replied, watching the children play among the framework of their new home. The future stretched before them, uncertain, but theirs. A crisp November morning painted Maple Creek in golden hues. The new Patterson house stood proudly, its porch wide and welcoming, the scent of cedar and fresh paint still lingering in the air. Inside, warmth radiated from every corner, not just from the fireplace, but from the lives that now filled the rooms. This wasn't just a house. It was a promise kept. In the yard, William and the children finished, digging a hole near the edge of the property. Elizabeth watched from the porch, a thermos of cider in her hands, her heart full. At noon, half the town gathered around the freshly dug earth. Sheriff Davis, Martha Grayson, Coach Miller, old Mr. Jenkins, all of them. William stepped forward, his voice steady. When we lost our home, we lost more than walls. We lost history, memories. He looked to Elizabeth, then to the children. But what we've built together is something stronger. He unwrapped the final gift, a young oak sapling. This comes from the forest where Sarah and I used to walk, where Jackson took his first steps. Today, they would plant it together, a symbol not of what was lost, but of what was found. The children each took a turn shoveling earth around the roots. Elizabeth added something unexpected, a carved wooden box containing 5 small hearts, one for each of them. William, Elizabeth, Jackson, Emma, Alice, Matthew. A promise, she whispered, to stay rooted, together. Mayor Thompson stepped forward, smiling. In this town, we name trees like we name stories, he said. This one will be the promise tree, a reminder that some bonds don't need signatures to be real. Applause broke out, and for once, Elizabeth didn't flinch from the sound. 1 year to the day after the fire, the promise tree had grown. Its young branches stretched toward the sky. Its roots held firm in the soil they all called home. Inside the house, the table William had built by hand was set for 12. Each chair carved with symbols chosen by the children: birds, bats, flowers, superheroes. Today wasn't just a meal. It was a celebration of survival, of family, of love born not from perfection, but from resilience. As the final guests arrived, William took Elizabeth's hand and led her to the front of the room. 1 year ago, he began, we stood in ashes. Today, we stand in something much stronger. Elizabeth's voice followed his, calm and clear. I left behind a world of appearances. What I found was truth. community, and love. Then she smiled, lifting her hand to reveal a simple wooden ring, crafted from the remains of their old home. "William asked me to marry him last week," she said, "and I said yes." The room erupted in cheers, but no moment was louder than the one that followed, when Jackson stepped forward with a handmade sign. Painted in bright colors, carved by all 4 children, it read, "Family isn't where you come from. It's who you come home to." Later, beneath the stars, William and Elizabeth sat beneath the promise tree. "I used to measure success by jobs and contracts," William said. "Now I measure it by laughter and healing." Elizabeth leaned against him, watching the children run barefoot through the grass. "I used to think silence was safety, but it was just emptiness. This is peace." William smiled. "And this is only the beginning." Sometimes what feels like the end is really the beginning of everything that matters. A single act of kindness lit the path, but it was courage, trust, and love that built the home. If this story touched your heart, there's another waiting for you right now. Watch the next one, because sometimes the next chapter is the one that changes everything. Subscribe and don't miss the next story that could change the way you see the world.